Welcome back to the Logic Dilemma. I'm your host, American Mike, coming to you from the Purple Mountain Majesties from Sea to Shining Sea, America the Beautiful. You are listening to the smartest show on the internet today, except for maybe this.
Dislocated worker grants, fancy phrase, which is dimes, all it is there to make sure it helps create jobs for workers involved in the cleanup.
What was it that helps create jobs? I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that, please? I'm not sure you could.
You got the vaccination?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I mean, you seem no, it works. Or or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or, whether those aliens are here or not.
One of my favorite clips. Hey, can I ask you a question for all of you listeners out there? What is a trusted interlocker, by the way? I'm not quite clear on that. And if we want to know whether or not we want to know whether there's a man on the moon or whether there are aliens out there, where is he telling people to go? I'm not really clear on that, but that is one of my very favorite recordings. That is the President of the United States, our president, a man who is not fit to run a McDonald's restaurant, and yet somehow he is the President of the United States, the leader of the free world. The man who's supposed to be keeping peace among the world. And if you think he's doing a good job, I'm not sure you're paying much attention. We've had plenty of problems. Not to mention, we can't get him to get through a speech. And it's true. We are not able to watch our president give a coherent speech all the way to the end. So what do we do about that? I don't know. You know that Biden said that he was raised Puerto Rican? No, I'm not joking. He's part Puerto Rican. He was raised Puerto Rican. He was raised in a Puerto Rican neighborhood. Now, young Biden, many, many years ago, said they didn't have diversity when he was growing up. But old Biden seems to remember being Puerto Rican. Listen to this.
I asked for your help. I did not grow up in an area or community where there were large Hispanic or even small Hispanic populations. I mean, it was just non-existent. Exposure and education are important. It wasn't until 3 years ago I realized the extent to which Hispanic Americans have been simply the victims of prejudice in the most extreme way, as extreme as any black American in this country.
I come from the little state of Delaware. It's not like the congresswoman from New York. She's from the big state. But we have a very, in relative terms, large Puerto Rican population in Delaware, relative to our population. We have the 8th largest black population in the country, and between all minorities, we have 20% of our state is minority. And so I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home.
So which is it? Do we listen to Little Joe, who says that there wasn't a great diversity in the state? Or do we listen to Big Joe, who says he was raised in the Puerto Rican community? This is a guy who says he was also raised in going to black churches. And yet when he goes to black churches, he looks like a fish out of water. I get it. In politics, you kind of have to say whatever you're going to say to get votes. And I know Trump does that. I'm not going to be 100% against Biden. Let's talk about Trump for a minute. Trump says a lot of different things that some of them aren't even true. And politicians have to do this in order to get their point across and say things that appeal to the people. So I understand it. But being raised Puerto Rican when everybody knows you weren't is odd. Saying that you were raised attending black churches when everyone knows you aren't, you never were, is odd. But again, Trump does and says odd things too. So I'm not going to completely say that Donald Trump says everything correct. But the media is going crazy right now. And we talk about this a lot because in the Logic Dilemma, this show, we talk about the logic of politics and how we aren't looking at logic. We're looking at emotion. And the media is all emotion right now. They're not looking at logic. The more they report on Donald Trump, the more popular he gets. They're giving him free press as well as marketing. They're just giving it to him. He's not having to pay for it. They're reporting and trying to fact check him on things that don't even matter. It's the funniest thing. They're trying to fact check him on things that don't matter. For instance, Trump made a joke in a speech that Joe Biden literally soiled the Resolute desk. Now, I'm not sure what he's talking about, nor do I actually agree with that kind of humor. What did Joe Biden take a crap on the desk? I have no idea. But Trump was insinuating this. Well, the media picks this up and reports it. Listen to the Huffington Post. It says, Donald Trump suggests Joe Biden did really disgusting thing on desk. Okay, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. None of this is going to persuade anyone to either not vote or to vote for Donald Trump. So why are you reporting it? No one is going to say, you know, I was all for Trump because he's better for the economy. He's better for for inflation. He's better for business, and he's better for foreign policy. But, you know, he made a comment about Biden crapping on the Resolute desk. So you know what? I'm not going to vote for him anymore. No, that's never going to happen. Obviously, it was a joke. So that's one of the things that the media reports that they don't even need to be reporting. You're not changing anyone's mind. You're not persuading anyone to vote differently. So why report it? Why give him the time? Honestly, I read this and I laughed. I had to go, like I do with all of the reports, I go and look at the actual context of how the remark was given. I do this with everyone. I go and look at and make sure that the recordings that I play are correct. I go and read and make sure that what the media is reporting is correct. And yeah, he made this comment, but it was in jest. He was joking about it. So why would you report that? Why would you give him that platform? Well, I don't understand it. The more they report on him, the more popular he gets. Now, they don't get it. The media thinks they have all this influence to try to get people away from Donald Trump. They don't. They don't have that influence at all. There's no way that they're going to be able to take all of Trump's supporters and turn them against him. Trump is facing legal charges. Now, I personally believe they're bogus. I don't know why we're even in the court system with Trump. Obviously, Democrats are trying to take him out of the running using the court system. They've been trying, they've been failing. They're going to continue to try, and I believe they will continue to fail. But whatever. Continue, do whatever you want, because the more you indict, the more we unite. Remember. So the media is all over everything Trump does. And yet, if they just stopped reporting, then Trump would lose followers. That's all you'd have to do is get him out of the news. CNN's actually doing better with this. I have been perusing the CNN website, and I've been noticing that Trump isn't even on front page or top page on CNN.com. I find that interesting because you go to MSNBC, and honestly, I don't think anything else goes through MSNBC's mind except Trump. I think they are 100% obsessed with this man. Obsessed. They can't think of anything but Trump. Front page, Trump, Trump, Trump. They are trying so hard to make him look bad. And even something like abortion, they're trying to make him look bad. Now, abortion is a hard one because Trump was instrumental in overturning Roe v. Wade. It was his doing. And he's able to brag about that and boast about it, and he does. So what does MSNBC say about it? They say Trump tries but fails to bring his abortion views into sharp focus. This was Steve Bannon from MSNBC's The Rachel Maddow Show. This is commentary on that. So tries, but he fails to bring abortion into sharp focus. Keep in mind, the only thing Trump said recently on abortion is it needs to be left up to the states. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I agree. I think abortion is one of those things that the federal government shouldn't even be near. There are a lot of things that should be left up to the states. A lot more than what we have now. The states should be making choices on abortion, on healthcare, on education, because the people are so different around all of the states. Americans are different in each of the states. So why not leave it up to the states to decide? Now, yes, there are some liberal states run by liberal people who will say, well, abortion's legal in our state. And then we'll have people traveling across state lines to get abortions. And let's take a few minutes to discuss abortion. This is the show where we discuss logic. And abortions aren't necessarily logical. Let's discuss. First off, nobody talks about abortion. Nobody says, I'm pro-abortion. Well, maybe some people, but most people that say I'm pro-choice. I want the ability to choose. Okay, what are you choosing? And then you have the other side, I'm pro-life. Well, I want the ability for this individual that's growing inside of this woman to be able to live a life. Now, every single time I've ever talked about abortion with a liberal friend, and we've had the discussion of abortion, the first thing they always bring up is, oh, you want to just cancel abortion for everybody because there's rape and incest survivors who get pregnant and what they should just have the baby. Okay, I know that happens, and I am so sorry that it does. It's tragic. But I'm not going to talk about that because I believe that the rape and incest, those times where your choice was actually taken from you and your ability to have a child and the child was forced upon you, those I believe are rare circumstances. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those cases where almost 1 million abortions in America in 1 year. Not all of those are rape and incest. What percentage of those are rape and incest? So I don't talk about those. I believe that we can make accommodations and exceptions when your choice is completely removed from the equation. I'm talking about the cases where almost 1 million women going in and having their baby extracted out of their body. That's what I'm talking about. And in most of those cases, the fetus already has a beating heart. Now, I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor, but I've always thought that maybe stopping someone's heart is killing the person. Remember, most abortions are done at a time when there is a beating heart separate from the mother's. So everybody says, who is pro-choice, says, well, it's my body. Well, not really. You're actually stopping the heart of an individual that is not your heart. Your choice would be if you wanted to stop your heart. That would be your choice. But you're choosing to take the heartbeat of another individual who doesn't have the freedom to choose, who would like to grow up and be a part of society and be a part of the human race, but they're not able to. Now, the part that's not logical about pro-choice is that you're choosing the wrong thing. I'm actually pro-choice too. I'll tell you, I'll be honest, I'm pro-choice. It's just that I want you to be able to choose the right side. You see, we're always over here saying, well, I want to choose whether or not I want to keep the baby. That's actually not your choice. The choice that you made was whether or not to create the baby. Remember, 99% of people understand how a baby's made. I know that there is a lot of education that we need to do in other areas where people don't understand. And let's do that. That's fine. But again, most people understand how a baby's made. That's your choice. Am I going to engage in activities that would result in me becoming pregnant? That's your choice. The choice is long before you ever know that you're even pregnant. The choice is whether or not to do these things. Once the baby is made, you're now wanting to choose your consequences. That's what's not logical about this entire argument. You do have the freedom of choice. You have the choice to not engage in those activities, but you don't have the choice to choose your consequences. See, we all have consequences to our choices, and we all have consequences to our actions. And to say, well, I engaged in activities that would create a child, but, I'm not going to have that child. You're choosing your consequences. It would be like saying, well, I'm going to go rob a bank, and then you get caught, and they say, okay, well, you're going to go serve 18 years in the state pen. And you say, no. I choose not to. You see, you can't choose the consequence of your actions. You can, however, choose whether to perform the act in the first place. I can choose whether or not I wanted to rob the bank in the first place. Then I'm not even faced with the consequence. And I think that's part of why our society struggles so much right now. Because we are so, and it's not just with pro-choice, and it's not just with pro-life, but our society is so focused on being able to choose our consequence instead of our actions. We want to be able to do whatever we want as a society, and then I want to be able to choose my consequences. It doesn't work that way. So if you're going to choose, you need to make that decision long before you engage in acts that would create this beautiful child. Because once you have a beating heart, you're now wanting to choose your consequences. And you're now wanting to take the freedom of choice away from this individual who has the ability to grow up and live an incredible life. I wish that people would just understand that pro-choice has nothing to do with the ability to choose your consequence. It has everything to do with the ability to choose your actions. And if you choose your actions wisely, you wouldn't even be faced with the choice of consequence. So, keep that, file it away, remember it, because remember, this is the logical show, and that makes logical sense. Now, the media, again, they're trying to fact check Donald Trump on all of this abortion stuff. And CNN posted this. Trump makes wildly inaccurate claim that all legal scholars on both sides wanted Roe overturned. This stems from remarks that Trump made that all legal scholars wanted Roe overturned for whatever reason. Now, that was an inaccurate statement. It wasn't correct. CNN picked it up, tried to fact check him. Again, why? You see, you're putting him in the news. And this is for something that isn't going to change anyone's mind. Nobody is going to say, hey, I am so grateful that Donald Trump worked so hard to get Roe v. Wade overturned. And then all of a sudden that person says, oh, but CNN says that he said all scholars wanted it overturned when in fact it was just most of them. Well, I guess I don't support Trump anymore. That's never going to happen. You see, that's never going to happen. His followers are so grateful for the work he put into Roe v. Wade that articles like this is only bringing him more supporters. I wish I could just talk to CNN and talk to MSNBC and say, you guys are fighting so hard to keep this man out of the public eye. And in so doing, you're putting him in the public eye with these articles that don't matter at all. It doesn't matter. Who cares what Trump said? His followers are so happy about what he did with Roe v. Wade that they're not going to care about this ridiculousness about, oh, he said all. Well, I guess I'm done. I'm going to go vote for Biden then. Are you kidding me? Nobody is ever going to do that. So I love the way the media tries to spin Donald Trump. Which brings me to another topic. What are Biden's views on abortion? Does anyone know? I know that he supposedly is a devout Catholic. But I have yet to actually see that, other than Ash Wednesday when I see the ash on his forehead. I have yet to actually see him be a devout Catholic. In my mind, trying to bring back Roe v. Wade, trying to legalize abortion, and being a devout Catholic doesn't match. It doesn't match in my mind. I don't know how they make it match. I don't understand it. Catholicism has always been against abortion. So how can he say, well, I'm a devout Catholic, when you're supporting abortion? It actually doesn't match. The two contradict each other. So what are Biden's views on abortion anyway? Has he ever talked about it? You know, at least Trump's out there talking about it, saying, look, let's let the states decide. But Biden, I don't even know where he stands on it. I don't know. Anyway, I'd like to shift gears because I've said the word abortion so much, it's making me sick to my stomach. It truly is. So I'm done with that. Let's move on. You know, I've never actually been a big fan of March Madness. I know a lot of people are. They have their brackets, and according to Kamala Harris, women couldn't even have brackets. I don't know what she was talking about until 2022. Oh, you see this? This is one of those situations I had to look it up to see if it was actually real. She did. She was saying that women couldn't even have brackets until 2022. I'm not sure if she meant the sports that they couldn't compete in the brackets until 2022, or if women couldn't physically have brackets to keep track of the sports until 2022. I'm not sure. But ultimately, again, Kamala Harris, whew, wow. Dumb. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of March Madness. I love basketball, but I'm not a big fan of college basketball. But I do respect that a lot of people are into this. But there's a big call right now for the NCAA to not allow men to compete in women's sports. Now, look, if 20 years ago you came to us and said, hey, let's make sure we don't have men competing in women's sports, we'd laugh. 20 years ago, 5 years ago, we would laugh about it. It actually doesn't make any sense. Look, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's power. I believe that they are awesome and they do awesome stuff. But on average, men are stronger, faster, and better at some of the sports. I say that on average, okay? I don't say this about everyone. Keep in mind, I've talked about me running marathons on this program. I run marathons. I enjoy marathons. I have been passed up by many women. What I'm saying is that on average, men are faster and stronger. So we're calling on the NCAA to make sure that we don't have men competing in women's sports. Now, I also do some amateur boxing. And so I have been in the ring a few times, and I enjoy it. And I train almost every single day. And I absolutely enjoy this. But it bothers me when I see men competing against women in the ring, especially in MMA and boxing. I've seen this video of this poor girl. She gets completely wasted by this dude. And I'm sorry, it was just a guy. I know that he was trying to identify as a woman, but he wasn't even trying to act like it. They announced the winner and he threw his arms up in the air. Yeah. He just wasted this girl. Now, see, I don't believe in that. You know why I know that's wrong? Because we have a lot of men who are mediocre in their sports of choice, and they are transitioning to women, and then they're competing and they're beating women. This is extremely common right now. We're fighting it across all sports. We have that ridiculous swimmer that never in a million years could beat men and be on his own level. So he becomes a woman and he starts dominating. Okay. There's always going to be an asterisk by your name that says, by the way, she was a man. But we see this. It's so prevalent in sports today where men are wanting to compete with women. But you know what we don't see? Now, see, again, this program is all about logic, right? All about logic. And you know what we don't see? We don't see women transitioning to be men so that they can compete in men's sports. It's only the other way around. You show me one woman that transitions to be a man, one trans man who is fighting to compete with other men in sports. You show me one man, trans man, who wants to get in the ring and fight in an MMA championship with another man. You show me one woman who wants to play basketball with the men. It doesn't exist. That's why all of this is fake. This is men wanting to dominate. That's all this is. The fact that we have women's rights out there saying, oh, yay. Oh, I love it. I love when men transition and become women. All of these women's rights advocates out there being completely fine with this blows my mind. It's not logical at all. If anything, women's rights and progressive movements towards women's rights should fight this. They should be standing there fighting this, saying, stop taking away our records. Stop taking away our work, all of our hard work in sports, because that's what the men are doing. These guys are coming in there and they're taking everything from women. And you just sit back and clap your hands and say, what a hero. What a hero. Do you see how this doesn't make sense? If the trans movement was so powerful and so big, then you would have women transitioning to be men and then fighting and playing basketball and playing football with the men. You don't. You don't have that. Because women know, instinctively, we all know that it's unbalanced in terms of physical activity. On average. I'm not saying everybody, but on average. So the NCAA sports, college sports are getting in trouble for this. And a lot of people are coming out to say they're going to sue. One of these people is Riley Gaines, a woman who has been in college sports for a long time, who has competed, who has done very well, and is an outspoken advocate of stopping this movement. A movement that lacks logic at its very core.
A legal demand to the NCAA, presented it to them hand to hand last year at their NCAA annual conference, where ironically enough, they announced their NCAA Woman of the Year, who Leah Thomas, an award Leah Thomas was nominated for, mind you.
Leah Thomas is a man.
This legal demand said, if you don't stop discriminating against women on the basis of our sex, there will be legal action. To which, of course, they have not stopped doing just that. They've only increased this discriminating on the basis of sex exponentially at that, in a variety of different sports and in all divisions of the NCAA. In every state, this is happening. It was time someone took action. I thought to myself for so long, I wish someone would sue. That's how we win. Someone has to sue. Never once occurring to me that I could be a part of this, that I could really help spearhead this along with icons and 15 other athletes who have now signed on to this lawsuit. Athletes who themselves were adversely impacted, athletes who lost out on national titles and All-American honors, and roster spots and podium spots and championships and records due to men at the hands of the NCAA being allowed to compete in our sports. I realize it's us. We can fight back. It's what the left does so well. The other side, they throw around lawsuits like it's nothing.
And isn't that the truth? They do. They throw around lawsuits like it's nothing. Why can't we? That was from the Outkick program. I want to make sure they are recognized for this. But this men competing in women's sports is an epidemic that's affecting so many people. Like Riley was saying, there are so many women who have worked their entire lives to stand on those podiums, to get those scholarships, to get those awards and those accolades, and they're losing it. They're losing it to men. And still our women's rights advocates are just standing there saying, oh, yay. She brought up Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is a man who decides that he wants to compete with the women in swimming. So he dominates. Now the NCAA said, hey, we want to make her the Woman of Athlete of the Year. Really? Do you know how big of a slap in the face that is to every single woman that has ever fought to get on top, working their whole lives just to get bumped off by Frankenstein. I don't get it. I don't get why women are okay with this. I don't get why there's a single woman on this planet that's okay with this. If I was a woman, I would be shouting from the rooftops that this is not okay. The men are coming in and taking what we have. And yet nobody is. Everybody's fighting for these trans men coming in and taking all of this from women. I don't understand it myself. But again, keep in mind, we don't have it on the other side. You show me one woman who transitions to a male and then wants to get in the ring to fight or step on the court to play basketball with the men or wants to play football with the men. We have none of that. So don't tell me that this is just the way society is growing. It's not, or else we would have women who want to compete with men. It's only these weaselly little men who can't compete with other men, and so they are coming to compete with women instead. That's all it is. Now, I would expect that people like, let's say, The View, all of these women sitting there talking about this, I would think that all of them would be against this. I would think that they would all want to talk about women's rights and how important it is for women to experience sports the way that they're meant to be experienced. But they don't. They're on the side of these trans men who want to compete with women. I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe I'm not meant to. Maybe my genius, logical, more advanced mind is unable to grasp these lowbrow concepts, but I don't know. Let's move on to a different topic. Dwayne Johnson was in the news just barely, just today. And he isn't in a news that you would expect. He's on Fox News. He was on Fox News talking about how he's not going to be endorsing Biden. He feels like that his endorsement of Biden last election was a waste. Now, Dwayne Johnson, you would expect that he would support Trump, although he hasn't come out and said that. Let me be clear here. He hasn't come out and said that he supports Trump. He just has come out and said that he does not support Biden. It makes sense because Dwayne Johnson seems like a man to me. But the left is all up in arms about this. MSNBC front page news right now is an article entitled, "The Rock Used Fox News to Throw Black People Under the Bus." The self-proclaimed people's champion has never looked weaker or more selfish than he did in his sit-down interview with Fox News. You really are going to call The Rock weak? This is Jahan Jones. He's a writer for MSNBC. And he says he's a longtime fan of Dwayne Johnson, but he doesn't understand how Dwayne Johnson would turn against Biden. And he's saying that it's just, you're just throwing black people under the bus. Now, let me say, because if you've listened to any of my other episodes, you know how I feel about the term African American. Remember, we talked about this at length. Logically, the term African American is a label used to continue to segregate groups. Oh, is he an American? He's African American. Oh, okay, I get it. It's like, remember we talked about it's like the plus size model. Oh, is she a model? She's a plus size model. Oh, okay, I get it. You see, a model's a model. It doesn't matter your weight. The fact that they use the term quote unquote plus size model is only to separate someone who weighs more than a traditional looking model. They only want to make sure that they make that distinction. So that plus size model effect, it's ridiculous. Why would you ever call anybody that? You're a model no matter what. Same thing with African American. The term African American was only invented so that we could continue to segregate the groups. They're not actually American. They're African American. Oh, okay. Most black people in America are no more African than I am Norwegian, where my family hails from. It's ridiculous. So just, you're American. You're all American. Be American. Don't be African American. Be American. Unless, like we talked about on our previous episode, unless you actually do come from Africa. That's perfectly fine. Then it makes a lot of sense. But if your ancestry comes from Africa 4 generations down, guess what? You're American. And you're a black American. Be proud of it. The reason why I bring this up is I will have to give props to Jahan Jones. He does say many times that The Rock throws black people under the bus, and he talks about black students. He talks about black people. He never uses the term African American. And I have to say that's good. That's very good. Be American, be proud. So what that you have a different skin color? You're just as much American as anyone. So be that. I just wanted to say that because that is one thing I found in this article, is that he never used the term African American. I like that. I think that term is derogatory. I really do. So he says, okay, The Rock isn't supporting Biden, so therefore that's how he's classifying him, as throwing black people under the bus, because he's not supporting Biden. Well, he also decried cancel culture and woke culture, saying, and this is a quote from The Rock, "That really bugs me." And in this, let's see, how can I do a Rock voice? I don't think I can. My muscles aren't big enough. "That really bugs me. And in the spirit of that, you either succumb and be what you think other people want you to be, or you go, no, that's not who I am. I'm going to be myself. And I'm going to be real. If you ask me something, a real answer is important, and the truthful answer is important. And that may get people upset. It may pee people off, and that's okay." How did Jahan Jones see problem with this statement? The only problem he has with The Rock is that he's not supporting Biden. That's it. Guess what? Biden's a racist. A real one. Not the fake one that you call Donald Trump. A real one. The real kind. The kind that we're so excited to be friends with Robert Byrd. That kind of racist. Back when Robert Byrd was an actual KKK member. You see, Democrats are the KKK. They always were. And that's how history shows it. The big plantation owners with all their slaves, guess what? They were Democrats. Lincoln, the one that wanted everybody to be free and emancipated all of the slaves, oh, he was a Republican. Well, look at that. You see, he's mad, and he thinks that Jahan Jones is mad. He thinks that The Rock threw all black people under the bus simply because he doesn't support Biden. Biden? If you haven't heard the racist things that Biden has said, then you're not listening. You're one of those non-logical thinkers who only sits in your little bubble and refuses to understand anything outside of it. Biden is terribly racist. We talked about Robert Byrd on a couple of episodes ago, and we talked at length about how the Democrats held him up as a standard, as a mentor. Hillary Clinton called him a mentor. Joe Biden said that when he was new in the Senate at 29 years old. Do you know how long ago that was? 29 years old? That was just, Robert Byrd was his best friend. He was a mentor to him. Robert Byrd was just fresh off of trying to filibuster the Civil Rights Act at that point. You see, none of the Democrats wanted, not none, there were a lot that wanted the Civil Rights Act, but some of them did not want it, and one of them was Robert Byrd, the same Robert Byrd that was a mentor to Biden at that time. It's so frustrating that you have liberals like this, that the only thing that he's looking at is, well, he's throwing black people under the bus. No, he's just trying not to align with the people who are actually racist. MSNBC is actually racist, not opposite racist, actual racist. Remember, again, go back and listen to my episode on this, because we talk about it. We talk at length about how MSNBC, the same network that Jahan Jones writes for, can't just say, hey, look, everybody, here's how Americans are voting. No. They have to break everything down by race. Here's our black vote. Here's our Hispanic vote. Here's our percentage of Asian American vote. Why do they do that? It's because they're racist. That's what racism is, keeping the group segregated. There you go. Go listen to that other episode. You'll like it. Actually, listen to all of my episodes. What you're going to find is you're going to find logic in your thinking. And at first, I know if you're liberal and you're listening to this, at first you're going to hate me. You're going to hate everything I say. But the more you listen, the more you're going to realize, oh, he's right. Wow, he's right. Men shouldn't compete in women's sports because women don't do the same. So it really has nothing to do with the trans movement, does it? It's just men wanting to be better than somebody. That's logical. Then you're going to say, oh, race. Wow. Republicans aren't actually racist. They're labeled that way just because they don't care about race. That's why Republicans are labeled racist. And Democrats are the quote unquote non-racist ones because they acknowledge race and they look at the different groups and make sure that they accommodate all of the different groups. That's racism by definition. So, you're going to look at that and say, wow, he makes a lot of sense there. So I get it. At first, you're going to hate this program, but over time, you're going to learn that logic is your friend. Logic is not a problem. It's not a dilemma in your life. Logic is your friend. Logic is what helps you understand reality and understand truth. We don't make decisions based on emotion here. We make decisions based on logic. And if that means getting after Joe Biden, we do that. And we do it a lot because logically he should be nowhere near the White House. And you know it. I think everybody knows it. And anybody who's watched any of his speeches knows that there's something wrong with him. But also, we get after Donald Trump when he makes mistakes too, because guess what? We're logical. So let's come together. Let's be smart together. And quit letting logic ruin your emotions. And quit looking at logic like a problem in your life. I'll tell you, my mother is a I think I've talked about her before on this program, and I have to be very careful because eventually I think she will listen to this program. She refuses now, but I think she'll come around. Anytime we discuss politics, if logic is ever brought up into the conversation, and if anything starts to make sense to her from a conservative viewpoint, she just throws her hands up in the air and says, "Oh, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk politics." See? Logic is a problem. Logic is a dilemma. If we ever say, "Hey, guess what?" I remember we don't talk politics very often. We want to make sure we keep love in our family. But I remember one of the last times we had the discussion, I said, "Well, Mom, did you know that Donald Trump actually never colluded with Russia on anything?" She said, "Oh, yes, he did." So obviously this was a while ago, a few years ago. "Oh, yes, he did. He colluded. Yes, he was working with Russia." I said, "No, we know now that was completely fake and completely false." No. It wasn't. He's a bad man working with Russia. So I started bringing up articles about how it was fake, that the report was fake. All of it was faked. It was based off a dossier that was a fake dossier that was written by somebody hired from the Clinton campaign. So what Hillary Clinton knew about it, no one knows. But the whole thing was fake. Donald Trump never even colluded with the Russians at all. And this was right when that story broke, that it was fake. And I'm sitting there trying to tell this to my mother, and she won't listen. She refused. Still to this day. Because the media doesn't report it. The media doesn't talk about how they were completely wrong. MSNBC isn't going to sit there and talk about how they were wrong. CNN isn't talking about how they were wrong. Nobody wants to talk about it, so they just drop it. That's how you know a story is bad for liberals, because they just drop it. It just goes away. So the whole Russian collusion thing, they don't want anybody to bring it up. They don't want anybody to talk about it. They certainly won't talk about it on the air. And so my mother doesn't know anything about it. All she knows, it's still to this day, if you ask her, did Donald Trump collude with the Russians? She'll say yes. Still to this day. Now, the only reason I bring this up is because we have got to listen to logic and reason. We have to look at the whole situation and say, okay, I concede this point. If you do that, you'll find that everything I say on this program is true, and everything I say on this program makes sense, because I introduce logic and reason and don't let it become a problem or a dilemma in your life. If you listen to this program, if you follow this program, if you listen to me and you trust me, you will make so much better sense of politics. And not only politics, but you'll make better sense of society, because you're going to start to look at things from a logical, reasonable standpoint, instead of this emotional, irrational stance that everybody seems to be taking right now. You'll look at it and say, oh, guess what? Biden does belong in a home, because he does. And you'll look at it and say, yes, Donald Trump does say some really stupid stuff, because he does. But guess who runs the country better? Trump, by far. And if you look at it from a logical and reasonable standpoint instead of emotional, you'll know I'm right. And on that note, I will leave you there. I am American Mike for the Logic Dilemma. Don't let logic be a problem in your life. Use reason. Use logic. You will be better off. Stay logical, America.